The road to finally completing and getting this full thing has been a long and wild ride. But as you can see, he's full, he's complete. So today, since I haven't talked about him at all on the channel, let's go ahead and get into everything there is to get into about Legacy Menasor on today's Legacy Menasor Extravaganza. How's it going, everyone? deceptibot9 here, and thank you as always for joining me here on the channel. Before we get to the robots themselves, go ahead, I want to ask, if you like what you see, go ahead, leave me a like, and if you want to stay tuned for all the future content and updates that I have planned, go ahead and subscribe as well. It does truly mean a lot to me. Plus, if you want to follow me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at deceptibot9, on Instagram at deceptibot9reviews, and on TikTok at deceptibot9. Alright, let me give you a quick overview as to what we're going to do here. I'm not going to do full reviews of each of the figures because obviously this video would be way too long. But I kind of want to take an overview of Menasor and the individual components. I want to kind of talk about my feelings about the figure, each figure individually overall, about Menasor as a whole overall. Plus, I want to kind of compare it to our previous version, the Combiner Wars version of Menasor. So, without further ado, go ahead, strap in, put your seatbelts on, because we're about to go for a long, wild ride with the Stunticons. Let's go! Alright, and here we have all of the Legacy Stunticons in their vehicle modes up on the review station. And you can see they're a good looking bunch. Honestly, I really can't complain about this group as a whole overall. Individual certain figures I may have some slight problems with, or I may like one over the other, but honestly, getting the whole group together and getting to complete the Stunticons, these guys look absolutely fantastic. I love the overall aesthetic of them here. I'm usually not one who, needs to have animation accuracy in certain areas. I like it when figures do their own takes on things, or they're on, different designs. I don't always need super accuracy, but man, I love the way these turned out as a group overall. Of course, we're going to talk about individuals here in a minute. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Let's go ahead and start individually with Dragstrip. All right, here's a better look, close up, of Legacy Dragstrip. This was the first of the Stunticons that we got in Legacy, and he set a pretty good standard. I think overall, Dragstrip is one of the best in this whole Legacy Stunticon set. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, he turned out great. We got him in the first wave of Legacy. So all the way back, about a year ago, actually, was when we started this Stunticon journey. But, he is a little more traditional G1 styled for the, Formula One racer. I don't know if this is Formula One, of the race car that he is. He looks great. We like the yellow, and we got the red stripes going on him around. Overall, looks really cool. And just so we can compare, here he is with the Combiner Wars version. And, I think funnily enough, this Dragstrip was the first to come out of the Combiner Wars Stunticons as well. So Dragstrip has a nice, coming out first, which is really fun. But you can see these are two drastically different takes on the Dragstrip design. And I think for the most part, they both really work. I've always kind of really liked this Dragstrip car mode. I think it's really neat. But of course, this is a more classic looking if you're going for that. So let's go ahead and really quickly transform Dragstrip. Alright, and here we've got Legacy Dragstrip transformed up into his robot mode. And again, he is really solid. I think he is on the better side of these Legacy Stunticons as individual figures. And I think the robot mode here works very well. I really like how he turned out. I think the head sculpt is great. I think the whole kind of upper section is really well done with the way the cockpit, I guess, transforms and gives us this nice silver part there in the robot mode. I do also even kind of like the way the spoiler at the front, or the fender, whatever it's called, transforms up on the shoulders. I think that's a really neat touch. Arms obviously look very nice. Legs, not a lot going on, very simple. The transformation overall is really simple as well, but I think he turned out, for the most part, very, very well done. I think he looks great in both modes. Transformation, nice and easy, but it is kind of fun at the same time. He is, pretty posable. We've got a swivel up here at the head. Arms go all the way around if they're not blocked. Oh, maybe they don't. Oh, they don't go all the way around because they kind of get blocked by the shoulder pad. They go out that far. They swivel at the arm. They've got an elbow bend. Nothing at the wrist. The wrist is static on him, but he does have a nice swivel. That was used in transformation. Legs go forward that far, which is really nice. Backwards that far as well. They go all the way out for the most part. If you get the arms out of the way, they spread very, very well. Swivel at the thigh, bend at the knee, gets a nice bend out of it there, pretty much almost 90. And the feet pivot backwards, not forwards. Oops. Pivot backwards, not forwards due to transformation, and they pivot all the way in at the ankle, which is really, really nice. And here he is next to Combiner Wars Drag Strip. And honestly, Combiner Wars Drag Strip is really solid in terms of a design. Honestly, I really, really like it. I like just kind of the way the shoulder kind of turn into spikes there. I love this head sculpt. This head sculpt is so cool for drag strip. Plus, I kind of like the maroon in there to kind of break up the yellow. I think it's kind of a nice touch. Obviously, I do like the all yellow, but there's something about the maroon that's kind of on the shoulders and the legs to help break up that yellow that is just really, really nice. So I think in terms of individual figures, this drag strip might be a better quote-unquote figure, but I lean towards the Combiner Wars drag strip in terms of design and style. And again, obviously, I'm just going to say this, I don't think I said it up top, this is really which Menasor you want is all going to be dependent on your preference. If you want something that is a little more G1 cartoon and to an extent toy accurate, you're going to want to go for Legacy, especially when it comes to these individual figures and Menasor as a whole. If you're looking for something that's kind of a unique, fresher take, go with Combiner Wars. We'll talk about, obviously, Menasor as a whole when we get to him. But that's drag strip for now. Let's go ahead and move on to our next guy, Wild Rider. All right, here is Wild Rider all done up into his vehicle mode. And I'm going to say off the top, as a single figure, Wild Rider is easily my least favorite out of all of these Legacy Stunticons. I was fairly disappointed with Legacy Wild Rider when I got him initially. He's kind of grown on me as a whole, but for the most part, I still just... he's not my favorite. And a lot of it comes down to transformation. I think transformation is kind of weak. Robot mode is pretty subpar overall as well, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Right now, though, the car mode actually, I don't really have many complaints about this vehicle mode. I think the car itself looks really, really nice. I kind of like how the front looks. The Decepticon logo on the front looks really nice. The color scheme overall is really well done as well. The nice kind of darker gunmetal gray with a red stripe all around it. The red clear plastic for the windshields is great as well. In the back, even coming to the back, it looks really nice. I kind of like the stylized design here and on the back bumper. So as a whole, the car mode is probably my favorite part of Wild Rider. I do really, really enjoy the car mode overall. Coming down to the bottom, it's not terrible down here. I wish they had done something different with the feet. I'll foreshadow this. I think this mold actually works better as breakdown. I think they should have done something different for Wild Rider, but we have to show off Legacy Wild Rider with Combiner Wars Wild Rider. And now, obviously, I will preface that Legacy, or Combiner Wars Wild Rider, this guy was a online exclusive. I want to say it was Hasbro Toy Shop, or it might have been somewhere else. Honestly, I can't remember. I got him locally from a guy. And the original Combiner Wars lineup had Off-Road in his place. I do have Off-Road somewhere, but obviously it's Menasor, so I'm going to have to use Wild Rider in mine. And you can see these are two wildly different takes on Wild Rider. This one is obviously just a repaint / a little bit of a redo of Dead End. I'm still not totally sold on this vehicle mode as Wild Rider. Obviously, It was more so intended for Dead End, so I think it works a little bit better there, but it's not bad overall. I like the color scheme on this Wild Rider much, much better, but otherwise, I think they're both pretty neat, pretty solid. Now, let's get Legacy Wild Rider transformed up into robot mode. Now we'll pause here. I will note the instructions tell you to flip the leg panels out first and fold them around, but I found it a lot easier and a lot less stressful on the plastic if you pop the arms out all the way first, because then that gives the legs actual clearance without stressing this plastic. Some of this, if you notice, if you transform it like the instructions say, this plastic tends to get stressed and could crack. So that's why I do mine a little bit differently. All right, let's continue. All right, here is Legacy Wild Rider transformed up into his robot mode. And I mean, yeah, honestly, it's not the best. We've got this big old backpack sticking off of it, and I keep mine condensed up because when you flare it out, I think that honestly looks even worse. I don't know why they even tried to go for it. They should have just left it like this. I think it looks better folded up, all compressed. But, you know, that's kind of the Wild Rider style if you're going for, you know, the accuracy. So it is how it is. I mean, he looks fine. Again, he's probably my least favorite out of all of them. And even I just transformed the Combiner Wars version to get ready to show him off. The transformation scheme with the Combiner Wars version, I didn't realize this till just now, nearly identical. And that is kind of disappointing because the rest of these Stunticons do not transform like their Combiner Wars versions at all. And now technically that includes Breakdown, because Breakdown is a different mold from the Wild Rider Dead End mold, except for Legacy Breakdown is this mold. So he is stuck transforming like the Combiner Wars Dead End mold, which is not the greatest, but let's go ahead and get a little bit closer look here on the robot. So coming up here, I mean, he's got a good looking head sculpt. The chest looks fine. Wild Rider, you know, traditional head, it looks great. Honestly, really like it. Not much else going on. I mean, there's still a lot of the nice gray color that we got, and the red stripe has made its way to the front of the arms now. The feet and the legs have no paint or anything whatsoever. They're all just molded to that color. And of course, coming around to the back is just all car stuff. But I mean, articulation is pretty on par with where drag strip was. The head swivels all the way around. Arms can go all the way around if you move them out slightly. They go out that far. They swivel at the bicep. They have got an elbow. There is no wrist swivel, but there is a wrist hinge just due to the way it transforms. Waist swivels all the way around. Legs go forward that far, and they go backwards that far. Plus, they go all the way out, full split there. They swivel at the thigh, bend about 90 at the knee, and the feet do hinge into the side, and technically, because of transformation, they can pivot up just like that. So, you know, he's just as posable as drag strip, but just something about this Wild Rider does not work for me. So let's compare him with Combiner Wars Wild Rider. Again, this is on the drag strip mold, so it does look slightly different from traditional Wild Rider, but still, overall, looks pretty nice. I like head sculpt, looks like a traditional Wild Rider. We've got a little bit of, you know, different type of chest going on, different legs and feet, obviously, but of course he does retain a backpack, just like the Legacy version. And, you know, overall, I mean, I do wish this one had the color scheme of this one, but it's hard to choose which one of these I like better. I think I'm tending to go for the Combiner Wars version, at least in robot mode, especially since transformations are apparently basically identical. But again, this one is my least favorite out of all of the Legacy ones. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our next guy, Dead End. All right, and here is Legacy Dead End in his vehicle mode, and I really, really like Legacy Dead End. Out of the deluxe figures for the Stunticons, Dead End is easily my favorite. I really like the way this guy turned out. I love this vehicle mode. I think it looks really, really, really neat. Plus, transformation is quite fun, and robot mode, as we'll see here in a minute, is really, really great as well. So I'm really pleased with how Dead End turned out. So let's go ahead and closer look at this car, shall we? All right, and we get some closer details up here on the car. We got some nice looking headlights. I really like this yellow stripe going all the way through the vehicle. I don't know what it is about this car specifically, but I am a huge fan of it. I really, really like what they've done here with Dead End. Here's what he looks like down on the bottom. It looks really, really nice. No real, robot kibble at all. I mean, there's obviously the chest, and this part of the chest as well. But besides that, really, really well done. I just love, love, love how this vehicle turned out. And of course, here he is with the Combiner Wars Dead End. Now, I am a fan of both of these Dead Ends for separate reasons. I think this Dead End turned out really, really well. He's probably my favorite of the Combiner Wars set as well overall. I really like this vehicle mode too. I think it works well for Dead End. I love kind of the silvery highlights going down there, the yellow stripe there. Both, I think both of these Dead Ends turned out really, really well, and I have very little complaints about either of them, except for that this one was repainted a million times. But this figure, as he stands by himself, I think is a great Dead End. So let's go ahead and get this Legacy one transformed up into robot mode. Alright, and here's Legacy Dead End transformed up into his robot mode. It's pretty fun transformation. I kind of like what they did up with the top, with the way the cab folds out and you flip the head out and fold the arms on. I really like what they did there. I think it's pretty unique. And even though this is a little bit of a backpack, it kind of compresses up really, really nicely overall. And my biggest complaint about him, obviously, is it seems like they kind of didn't really think about the feet, because it's just the kind of back bumper section of the car that folds down, and he's a little skinny there on the calf section, or on the shin back section, whatever that's called, the ankle, whatever. The calves are huge. He's got some jacked up calves right there. But let's go ahead and get a little bit closer look here at Legacy Dead End. All right, I mean, this is a fantastic head sculpt. I love the glittery purple on the visor. The orange on the mouth plate is really, really well done. And the rest of the black on the head sculpt is just really, really clean and nice. Chest overall, everything here looks great. I love the way this guy turned out. Yes, obviously, the leg proportions are a little bit weird, but I honestly don't mind all that much, especially if you're looking at it from the front. It's really not too bad. Even from other certain angles, you're not really going to notice all that much. And again, like I mentioned with the backpack, it does compress really, really nicely, so it doesn't stick out a whole lot. And it's just overall, Dead End, I'm super, super happy with how Dead End turned out. I think as a standalone figure, he is really, really fun. If you haven't been planning on picking up any of the Stunticons really, or you don't want a complete Menasor, I think this is one of the best ones to get just as a standalone figure. He's a great looking car. He's a fun little robot. Transformation is overall really fun. And, the combination gimmick doesn't get in the way of this at all. So there he is. Let's go ahead, and his articulation is, just about the same as the other two. Head, swivel, arms, swivel all the way around. They go out that far. Bicep bends 90 about at the elbow, nothing at the wrist. Swivel here at the waist. Legs go forward that far, they go backwards that far, they split out all the way to the side. Leg swivel at the thigh, knee bend that goes just about 90, a little bit under, and ankles go all the way into the side, and they pivot backwards and not very much forward. And here he is with his Combiner Wars version, and yeah, I am a huge fan of this guy in robot mode. I think he's just really, really neat. I love the colors going on. The head sculpt is great. Overall, this works a lot better as Dead End, in my opinion, than it does as Wild Rider. And you can't go wrong, I think, with either of these guys. I'm a big fan of the Combiner Wars version here. And you can see, again, it's two wildly different takes. I mean, if you're looking for something a little more stylized, go here. If you're looking for classic G1 animation / toy, go here. You really, I think, with Dead End, can't go wrong with either one. So let's look at our last deluxe figure, Breakdown. Okay, here is Legacy Breakdown transformed up into his vehicle mode. And honestly, I'm not minding the fact that he's not a traditional Lamborghini styled up here on the front. I think this vehicle mode as it stands right now looks pretty solid. It looks really, really great. I love the white, even the red up here and the blue stripe down there. Turned out really, really well. Do I wish this was a Lamborghini front? Yes, obviously. It makes complete sense. That's kind of what Breakdown in G1 traditionally has always been. But I think for the most part, as it stands right here, how it is, it works. And I do kind of enjoy it. And like I said, I think this figure works better as Breakdown than it does as Wild Rider. I thought I was going to super dislike Breakdown because I didn't like Wild Rider at all, but I found myself actually enjoying Breakdown a lot more than I enjoy Wild Rider. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this car, shall we? All right, so getting up close here, I just think the white is really well done on this figure overall. The front, yes, it is the same as Wild Riders, so we kind of already seen that. I do like the red, though. The addition of the red up here. Decepticon symbol looks good. We got some tinted clear windshields instead of the nice dark red that we saw on Wild Rider. The blue stripe here on the bottom is very well done. We get the, of course, the traditional spoiler weapon. Not traditional at all, but spoiler weapon is an interesting choice for him, but I think it kind of works out. Coming down to the bottom, weapon storage down here at the bottom I actually quite like. I think that's a neat little touch, and you can see it looks basically exactly the same as Wild Rider under there. So let's go ahead and see how he looks next to the Combiner Wars Breakdown. And yes, obviously, this is much more of a Lamborghini styled looking car than the Legacy one. And I do wish that this one looked a little bit more like this, but I will say the coloring on the Legacy one is much better than the coloring here. This one's kind of like a weird creamy off-white, where this one is actual white. And I think this looks much, much better in hand and on camera, because it kind of looks like on camera this one is yellowish. It's like it looks like it's yellowed, but it hasn't. That's just the color that it is. So here's the two Breakdowns next to each other as a car. Let's go ahead and get this guy transformed up into his robot mode. It's exactly the same as Breakdowns. Nothing has changed, so actually we'll skip the transformation here, go straight to robot mode. All right, and here is Legacy Breakdown in his robot mode. And like I said, overall, I think this actually works a lot better as Breakdown than it does as Wild Rider. This body type just seems to fit better for Breakdown, so I have been enjoying this figure a lot more as Breakdown than I have Wild Rider, which, you know, kind of sucks that I haven't really found a good quote-unquote Wild Rider yet, unless we count the animated version, which is a repaint of Lockdown, because I do love that mold, but I wish I had that figure. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the details here on Breakdown. All right, so coming up here, this is a great head sculpt. I love the way the head sculpt turned out here on Breakdown. Those yellow eyes and that red face with the kind of square, boxy look just is really, really nice. Classic Breakdown, obviously. Chest looks really good as well. Nice blue and silver going on. We see the side of the panels of the car with the blue fists here. The legs coming down. There is at least some paint on this one. The nice blue here really helps break up some of that white color, unlike Wild Rider, which didn't have anything going on with the legs besides their molded grayness. We get some nice blue going on here, which looks great. And the feet here are just all plain white except for the joint. Now, as you'll notice, I haven't really pointed it out, but all of the deluxe Stunticon figures have had two guns, and they're all been different, and they've been painted a little bit differently. Breakdown stands out from those guys a little bit by having his spoiler as a weapon, and I kind of like that style that I just had it, where it's, you know, they combine up to be a melee weapon, because otherwise you've got a gun and a boomerang or something, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what that is. It's kind of an odd choice, but I think it looks silly, but it's fun with that. So let's go ahead and take a look at his articulation. Again, it's exactly the same as Wild Rider, so we don't really need to look at it. Swivel, swivel, goes out, swivel, elbow, nothing at the wrist, swivel here at the waist, legs forward, legs back, legs out, swivel at the thigh, bend at the knee, ankle pivot all the way, and a pivot upwards, just like that. So, I mean, again, he's Wild Rider, so not much going on there. At least, the body is what Wild Rider was. I don't know which one of these actually was made first. I would be interested to know if they planned it as Breakdown first and then decided to turn him into Wild Rider, or if it was always Wild Rider first and repainted Breakdown later. Anyway, here he is with the Combiner Wars 1, and I think this is an instance where Legacy, for me, is going to take the cake, because I was transforming this guy up, getting him ready, and I was like, oh yeah, he's not that bad. I like the head sculpt here on him. The arms are really neat with the way they transform and fold out. And then I got to the legs, and I was like, oh, I forgot that they were like this. This is kind of rough. They've got a weird pivot joint going on in the waist, and the legs are kind of stumpy, so I was kind of blown away by how weird the bottom half of this Breakdown was. So, and again, the off-white color is a little weird to me, and I just wish that it was a little more traditional white like this one. I think this white has turned out really well. Fingers crossed that they fixed the yellowing issue across the board, and this guy does not turn yellow at all. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at our leader, Motormaster. So, my spinner is not big enough to fit Motormaster here, obviously. So you're just going to have to deal with a little bit of overhang if we want a quick look at his full vehicle mode. Now, I am going to preface this by saying initially I was not thrilled with the fact that we were getting Motormaster as the Commander class figure, because I really liked Jetfire and I really liked Skylynx, and I thought they were great Commander classes. They were big. They were a lot bigger than a lot of the other figures. And then they gave us Rodimus, who is just kind of normal sized, except for he had this big trailer that didn't really do a lot. So when they announced that they were doing another figure that was, kind of regular, Voyager leader-ish size in Commander class, and he had a big trailer, I was like, ugh, that kind of blows. That's kind of lame. But what they've done with Motormaster here is absolutely tremendous, because I think the main figure itself is great. I thought the main figure of Rodimus Prime also was great, but then again, we're stuck with a big trailer that doesn't really do anything. But this trailer, unlike Rodimus's, does something. This is integral to the Menasor mode, and it does have base mode stuff. I'm not really going to go over that because I don't touch it at all, and I don't really like to use it as such. But this is Menasor right here, this trailer, which is really, really neat. And you'll see, I'll show off how all that transforms, because the characters themselves, the individual Stunticons, don't actually transform, because this trailer, for combined mode, because this trailer does all the work, and plus Motormaster. And I think that's really, really cool. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look just at the cab of Motormaster himself. It is just pegged in here, in the back. So, the actual truck mode of Motormaster is, it's quite tiny. Not tiny, but it's about regular Voyager figure size. Just for comparison, here he is with Earthrise Optimus Prime. You can see he is a little bit bigger, a little bit bulkier than Optimus Prime, but, he's just a big truck, so he's going to be the same size as everyone else. But there is a lot of fun to be had contained in Motormaster. I think he's probably my favorite Commander class figure now, actually, that I think about it. So, here's Motormaster by himself as a truck, and of course, here is Combiner Wars Motormaster, who I've never really been a huge fan of. I think he's alright, but this one, Legacy, definitely blows the Combiner Wars out of the water. You can see just as a truck, the Combiner Wars one is a little bit bigger, but if you add the trailer to this one, it's full trailer and it is full classic Motormaster, whereas this one, he's just a truck. He never had a trailer to go with him, so we all know who wins this. Anyway, let's go ahead and get Motormaster transformed up into his robot mode. right, and here is Legacy Motormaster all transformed up into his robot mode, and he is so cool. The transformation is really a lot of fun. Most of it's housed here in the legs, and I really like what they did with it, actually. I know some people were not fans of the fact that he has faux parts. We'll go ahead and talk about the legs down here. But I think the way they use them is awesome. I think because, of course, the original Motormaster, the whole body was the trailer and the truck. So the legs, obviously, this is the front of the truck. But when you're doing this body as just the truck and no trailer, you have to figure out how to make it, you know, the tiny cab if you're doing animation accuracy. And I think the way that they've done it, where this folds over to kind of cover up the front of the car, and this folds around, I think that's really well done. I think he's really neat overall here as Motormaster, just by himself. He's a solid figure. If they had just released this as a Voyager without the trailer, I would have been sold. I would have been like, this is a fun little Motormaster. I really like him. But I do think he was worth the Commander class because we get Menasor out of it. So let's go ahead really quick. Articulation is, you know, about the same as it is on the other figures, but there's a little bit more going on with him just due to some of the transformation things. So the head goes all the way around. Arms can go all the way around if you get them out of the way of the wheels on here in the back. They go up that far. They swivel at the bicep. Swivel at the bicep. We got bend at the elbow. He actually has a wrist swivel, unlike the other guys. He does swivel at the waist. Legs go forward that far. They are on a ratchet. They go backwards that far as well. They go out all the way to the sides as well. Swivel at the thigh. That's what it's called, the thigh. Knees, he's got kind of a double knee just because of the way he transforms. So the main knee gets it going at least 90, but you could also push it a little extra with that extra joint that's back there if you would like. And the feet, they ankle pivot all the way in and kind of can swivel a little bit, you know, side to side if you want that. So there is Legacy Motormaster. Let's see how he looks, of course, with Combiner Wars. Yeah, it's no comparison here. Legacy definitely takes the win on this guy. He's all right. I mean, in robot mode, he's a little bit better. I kind of like the way he looks. Except for I wish the arms were a little bit smaller, but yeah, I mean, transformation to him is all right. I like the head sculpt here on this one a lot, though, too, as well. This Motormaster just kind of, yeah, mediocre, to say the least, so let's go ahead and get him out of here. All right, and here is a group shot of all of the Legacy Stunticons in their robot modes. They look fantastic. This is a great-looking bunch in both vehicle modes and overall here in robot modes. All right, so that's about it for the individual Stunticons themselves. Now it's time to get into Menasor. Now, I'm going to transform all of the individual Stunticons off camera because getting them ready for Menasor mode is basically just putting them into vehicle mode. So I'm going to put them back into vehicle mode, and then we'll transform Motormaster and the trailer, and I'll kind of show off all of that part of it. But let's get these guys transformed up first. Alright, so that was transforming Motormaster into his piece for Menasor, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the trailer, which is where all of the interesting magic for Menasor happens. All right, we didn't take a closer look at the trailer quite yet, but here's kind of just an overview of how the trailer looks. I actually really like it. I've seen some upgrade kits coming out where they make this front part, like they try to cover this part up, and in doing that, they make it longer. And in my opinion, I think it actually looks better shorter because it's more reminiscent of how Motormaster actually looks in animation and in toy form. Now, we're going to get going on transforming this thing. It's really, really neat how it all works. It kind of separates into 3 main chunks, and then from there, each of those transform up, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. But first of all, let's go ahead. I'll show you the 3 separate sections. So section 1, split it here, and this is where the sword for Menasor / Motormaster is stored. Plus, this will turn into the main torso section of Menasor, and this piece will form a sort of gun turret station. So that's section 1. The other part is that this part of the trailer just separates in half, and this top half is going to give us the gun for Menasor / Motormaster and will be the leg pieces, and this section here will become the arms, and we will I'll show how to get them obviously into a first single mode, and then the rest of the transformation is done by actually a gimmick. So when they're ready, we'll go ahead and talk about that. But first, we'll put these 2 off to the side and we'll do the torso. This piece right up here, this is the gun turret thing. The gun will actually be able to attach right there. It's just a 5mm port. But you can go ahead and put this off to the side, because if you're going into Menasor, you will not use this piece at all. So all right, and that's that transformed up for Menasor. We'll show how to connect these 2 bad boys here. So as you can see on Motormaster, there's these big pegs here. There's big peg holes right here in the torso section. And if you look here on the back of Motormaster down here in his butt, basically, there's a 5mm port. There is a 5mm peg right there. So for torso, you're just going to connect Motormaster at that piece there, clip that in, and then you're going to fold this purple panel up, make sure it clips in there, and then fold these gray pieces up. And that is the torso for Menasor. So we'll go ahead, do all the limbs, and then we'll look at Menasor in full. Alright, here is the leg pieces for Menasor. Pretty simple transformation on these ones, pretty easy. And these ones do also have a gimmick built into them. I know some people, are criticizing this Menasor for having the cars be on the back, but in all fairness, that is how he looks in animation. So if you want animation accurate, this is what you're going to go for. Now, the legs here, what is interesting is we'll bring our 2 leg boys in. That's Breakdown and Wild Rider, obviously. And this is how you want to get them ready for transformation. You put them into a vehicle mode, and then you just fold the front part of the car up and the windshield out. Now, if you look on the bottom of these 2, there are 5mm pegs up here at the top. There's their little feeties. And there's some other connection. I think it's these ones right here. And if you look at the back of these pieces, you'll see all of that right there. There's 2 5mm ports, and this is a spring-loaded section, which we'll look at here. Ready? So when you take the car and you line it up here on the back with where the ports go, these pieces that are sticking out next to the ports will push on that purple piece. So when you get everything lined up and you push the car all the way in, it folds out the, let me make sure my car is not lined up all the way. There we go. It pushes these little panels out, which if you look kind of closely, I'll pull up the other one here to compare. It's kind of molded in what the bottom of the car looks like for the most part. So that is kind of interesting. If you look closely, that kind of looks like the feet of the bottoms of the cars. So again, on this side, we'll do the same thing. We'll just make sure everything is lined up and push it in. Bada bing, bada boom. There is the legs. Now you'll notice these two pieces up here look vaguely combiner war port-ish, but they are not quite. You'll notice here there's a little bit of tab sticking out on the side there, and that kind of helps lock them in place. On the back here are the two leg slots. You're just going to slide in, and the other one slide in. So there are the legs of Menasor transformed up. Let's go ahead and do the arms. All right, and that's about all of the transforming you want to do with the arms for the moment, because what you're going to do is bring your Stunticons in, drag strip and dead end. They are just both fully transformed back into their vehicle modes. And if you look on the bottom, you will see there's some pegs, there's some tabs, pegs here, pegs down here. That all lines up with what's going on right here. There's two pegs, there's two ports right there, and one little slit right here. So when you line that all up, what you do, line that all up, tab it all in, and you've got a car on the arm. Now, to transform it up the rest of the way, you're just going to push down on both halves, and it's going to separate, and then you continue extending it out, and then you fold that wheel up. And that is an arm fully transformed up. And I think that gimmick is really, really neat in order to, achieve this, sort of combined but split up look. I think it's really cool to put them here and then actually be able to integrate them into part of that transformation, despite the fact that they don't, actually combine in... Unlike the Combiner Wars ones, which, are fully the arm and stuff, but we'll look at that there. So, there we go. There is two Menasor arms, fully ready to go. Let's bring the big boy in here. All right, there we go. Got this guy up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take these pieces that are on the side of the arm, and they are going to slide right over the top here of what was Motormaster's foot. So, slide that down. It'll make a nice click, and you'll know that it is nice and secure on the body. And coming off, it is a little bit trickier, but once you give him here the gun and give him the sword, boom! There is a fully put together, transformed, rock and rollin', loaded up Legacy Menasor. And, I gotta say, I really, really actually dig this. When we first announced that there was going to be a Menasor coming to Legacy, there was some rumors that were going around that it was going to be kind of a multiversal Menasor, with breakdown from Transformers Prime, some other, maybe some others from here and there. That's the only one I kind of remember. But I thought that would have been really, really neat to do something like a multiversal combiner. I thought that would have been really, really cool. And when it was ultimately revealed that it was a G1 animation styled Menasor, I was a little put off. I was like, well, okay, multiversal would have been cool. This is Legacy. Let's go ahead and do some of that multiverse stuff. But in the end, I am actually really, really happy with how this Menasor turned out. I think he looks really, really great. What's really weird is proportionally, in person, proportion-wise, he looks cool. He looks really, really solid. All the limbs kind of look the same, but when you look at him on camera, like here, and I was trying to take some pictures of him yesterday and stuff too, his arms look a lot bigger than his actual legs. I don't know why it does that on camera, but not really in person. But anyway, here he is. He's rocking. He's rolling. He is all squared up, looking super, super neat. And he is quite large, taking up a lot of review space here. My camera is farther back than normal, but I honestly really enjoy the look of Menasor here fully transformed up. You can see, let's take a closer look at some details on the guy. We got a nice looking head sculpt. I like the way the red eyes poke out there. The silver paint looks really nice. We got little antennas up here. I do wish that he had some sort of expression other than, you know, grimace, but it is what it is. Here's some details on the chest. I love the big Decepticon symbol. The molded detail here on the chest is really, really nice. Some of this grill stuff, obviously this is just the car. We get some of these nice molded details going on the arms. Coming down to the legs, of course, look really, really, really nice. We kind of talked about this molding here a little bit. And there's the feet coming around to the back. Obviously, there are the cars just hanging out on the back. And there's just a lot of extraneous Motormaster stuff here on the back. I do like the way they painted these pieces purple, so it kind of matches. But yeah, I mean, from the back, obviously there is some extra cars, and I know some people would rather have those on the front, which, I mean, if you wanted to get those on the front, you could turn the leg around. In my opinion, I've seen people folding that around and going, oh, that looks so much better. I disagree. I don't really think that looks much better when you could put the cars in front like that, at least on this design. Obviously, it works better for some designs, but this one, not so much. Let's go ahead and talk articulation really fast before we look at Combiner Wars Menasor with him. So the head swivels all the way around. You can look up if you detach the head. Otherwise, can't really get any other head articulation either. The arms do both swivel all the way around, and they go out pretty dang far. That's pretty far for the arms to go. The arms here at the elbow swivel all the way around, plus they bend all the way down and a little bit past 90, or just about 90, and the wrists do swivel around as well on a ratchet there. Here at the waist, swivels all the way around. Legs go forward that far, all the way far, and backwards that far, and they do split all the way down the middle, which is something we love to see. They swivel here at the thigh, bend a little bit past 90 there. That looks a good bend there on the leg, and they pivot at the ankle all the way over to the side, plus the legs, they kind of go forward and back. So Legacy Motormaster is pretty darn posable. You can get him into some neat poses. Everything is nice and ratchety and clicks, so he should be able to hold pretty good standard of poses that you want to get him in. Now, the big comparison, all right? How does he look and feel next to the Combiner Wars version? So let's bring him in. All right. Here are the two Menasors next to each other. And, you know, I got to give this one to Legacy. When they were all put together at first, I remember the Combiner Wars ones being a little bit bigger, fully combined, but yeah, Legacy is definitely, I think, the way to go here, in my opinion, at least in terms of build. Obviously, stylistically, it's hard to say. I think stylistically, I like what they were going for with the Combiner Wars Menasor. It has some things that I do like about it, but I mean, ultimately, I think Menasor ends up being one of the worst Combiner Wars combiners. He falls flat in a lot of areas for me. And even though this one is all styled up like traditional G1, which isn't always my forte, I do really like how this Menasor turned out. But there's some things on this one, obviously, that I do enjoy. I do like, I think, this head sculpt is so much better, in my opinion, than the Legacy one. I like the curved horns much better, plus the screaming expression is super, super nice. And this one actually is on a ball joint, so you can get him looking around a lot more. Again, it comes down to if you would like to have actual vehicles forming the limbs of your combiner, or if you want them to be like the cartoon version where it's just stacked up on top of each other. I like the addition of Blackjack. I think that's really, really neat, and it forms a kind of cool silhouette here on the chest. Proportion-wise, though, this one he's a little stumpy, a little stubby, and I think the Motormaster of Combiner Wars was not the greatest in terms of forming a torso. I mean, you can see, like, everyone complains about these legs. I don't have any upgrade kits or anything on mine, so this is just base Combiner Wars. But and see, there you get He falls apart. Like, he is not solid in this mode. Like, as an actual combiner figure, this is pretty weak. He falls apart. You know, the chest piece comes off really easy, and you try to rotate the arm, and this part comes detached. So you've got to kind of hold it to rotate the arm, and then you get, like, my dead end, his copy. It doesn't hold really together all that well on that part of the arm. And then, of course, the legs they're okay, but they don't stay tabbed in very well here on the panel that's supposed to tab in and hold the leg secure there. It doesn't really hold in, but, you know, he's okay. Of course, obviously, also the hands and feet gimmick that they were going for did not work as well as I think we would have liked it. You see, even he is struggling to stand up here. There he goes. We're just going to leave him there for a second while we finish talking about him. The range of articulation on this guy is a lot better than it is here. I mean, except for the head. You know, the arms swivel all the way around. They go out. Actually, it might be about the same. We got swivel at the bicep, bend at the elbow. It moves at the there's two elbows kind of swiveled at the wrist. Legs go forward, back a little bit. They don't go out very far, obviously, unless you untab these. Knees bend back probably about 90. There's no ankles or anything on this either. So, I mean, stylistically, if we're talking just style here, this Menasor looks really cool, and I like the idea behind it. I wish it was proportioned a little bit better. But in terms of overall figure execution, we're going to have to go Legacy Menasor all the way. So let's go ahead and get this guy out of here, shall we? All right, you know what, guys? I think that's going to do it for a closer look here at Legacy Menasor. So what do you say we wrap this up, shall we? All right, so for my final thoughts here on Legacy Menasor as a whole, I'll keep this brief because we've talked a lot today. Overall, I think it's really, really solid. I really like the way he turned out. I think the Menasor mode himself looks really great. I think individually, as a whole, the Stunticons are awesome. They look great in vehicle mode, look great together in robot mode. Some of them individually are kind of hits and misses for me, but I really like Motor Master. I really like Dead End. Drag Strip and Breakdown are okay, and Wild Rider is kind of bleh. So, I mean, overall, not bad. Obviously, as a group, they rock, and I love having this Menasor specifically. I think it looks really, really nice overall. I hope that we kind of stop with the combiners here. I don't need G1 accurate versions, I think, of, you know, ones like Bruticus or Abominus or Superion, because those Combiner Wars versions are a lot better to me. But Menasor was one of the ones that I was never a huge fan of, because the Menasor of the Combiner Wars version just turns out really rough. It's not very good if you have the base version. I'm sure there's upgrade kits that help make them a little bit better here and there, but I think this Menasor is pretty worth it overall if you can find them all at retail price. I probably wouldn't pay much over retail for some of them. I paid a little bit over retail for Motor Master just because I couldn't find them anywhere else. But that's that for Menasor. So, guys, that's going to do it for my look at Legacy Menasor. Go ahead and let me know down below, if you've made it all the way to the end, what your thoughts on Legacy Menasor and the Stunticons are. I know we've talked a lot today, so if you made it all the way to the end, I thank you so much. I know this is going to be a big, long one. It's been a wild journey for Legacy Menasor, so let me know all your thoughts about him down below. All right, guys, thank you, as always, for tuning in. I have been your host, deceptibot9, and I'll see you guys later.